When Anna Carter arrived for her first day at the NATO training facility, fellow trainees dubbed her a paper soldier, an academic officer straight from military archives. One recruit chuckled while hurling a map folder at her face, sneering, "Run along and draft your theoretical wars, honey." However, everything changed when a senior officer spotted the fractured blade tattoo bearing 7 carved marks on her wrist. He whispered quietly, asking about Warrior 42 from Black Ridge Zero, causing the entire camp to fall into stunned silence. Anna remained motionless, her chestnut hair cascading freely past her shoulders, her serene demeanor unwavering. She showed no reaction as the binder struck her torso before dropping to the floor. The recruit, a lanky German with cropped hair and an arrogant smirk, reclined in his seat with folded arms, anticipating her response. The space filled with muffled laughter from the others, elite young soldiers from throughout Europe, all specially selected for this multinational NATO training program. They observed her simple uniform, her makeup-free face, the way she kept her hands clasped before her. In their eyes, she appeared to have wandered in from administrative work rather than active combat. Yet Anna ignored the fallen binder. She avoided looking at the German recruit. Instead, she moved forward, her footsteps muted against the concrete surface, and found a seat in the room's rear. The chuckling subsided, though whispered comments continued. "How did she get clearance?" someone murmured. "She won't last past noon." The classroom carried scents of chalk powder and brewing coffee. Strategic maps and diagrams adorned the walls, secured with metal tacks. The instructor, a weathered British colonel bearing a facial scar, cleared his throat before beginning the lesson. Urban warfare tactics, formation strategies. Anna sat out, in silence, her journal open, her pen creating slow, intentional marks. The German kept stealing glances backward, grinning while whispering to his neighbor. Occasionally, others joined in, delivering loud enough jabs for her to overhear. "Guarantee she's never touched a weapon. Likely here to document for actual soldiers." Anna's expression remained unchanged. She continued writing, her gaze fixed on the paper as if she occupied the room alone. But there was an instant, just a brief pause, when her pen stopped moving. The German had leaned toward a French trainee, a thin youth with a boisterous laugh, saying, "Check her out, dude. She's probably helpless without office supplies." Anna's hand froze above her notebook. She glanced up, not at them, but at the wall map displaying a topographical layout of a fictional combat zone. Her eyes followed the ridges and depressions, and momentarily her mouth pressed into a tight line as if suppressing something. Then she resumed writing. Outside during recess, the air carried sharp pine and diesel scents. Anna leaned against a wall near the hydration station, drinking from her canteen. A Swedish trainee, tall with a malicious grin and colorless eyes, noticed her and approached. "Hey, desk jockey, you left your typing machine behind." He grabbed a plastic cup, filled it with water, and threw it at her. The liquid splashed across her uniform, drenching her chest and dripping onto her boots. The group erupted in laughter, some doubling over while others patted the Swedish trainee's back. Anna stood there with water streaming down her sleeve, her face emotionless. She didn't wipe herself dry. She didn't acknowledge them. She twisted the cap back onto her canteen with steady fingers and walked toward the sleeping quarters, her boots making slight squelching sounds. The Swedish trainee called after her, "Go organize some document." "It's, sweetie." The laughter followed her, but she never turned around. A gentle breeze stirred her hair as she vanished around the corner, her silhouette distinct against the gray barrack walls. "Hey, before we continue, could you help me out? Pull out your phone, tap that like button, leave a comment below, and subscribe to the channel. It really helps and keeps us motivated to share stories like Anna's. Stories about individuals who get dismissed but remain standing. All right, let's return to the story. The humiliation extended beyond the folder and water incidents. By lunchtime, the nickname Desk Jockey had spread throughout the camp like wildfire. It accompanied her to the dining hall, where she sat isolated at a corner table with an untouched meal before her. The German trainee, his name was Klaus, passed by with his group, his tray clattering as he placed it nearby. "Desk Jockey," he announced loud enough for everyone to hear. "Are you here to duplicate maps or something?" The others laughed, some pounding their fists on tables. A British guy with sharp features and polished boots added, No, she's here to organize our paperwork. Keep the office chair warm for us." Anna didn't raise her eyes. She picked up her fork, speared some chicken, and ate slowly as if she hadn't heard anything. Klaus leaned across his table, his voice projecting, "Seriously, who authorized your entry? This is a combat facility, not a study hall." Several trainees glanced at Anna, expecting her to respond sharply. She didn't. She set down her fork, cleaned her hands with a napkin, and stood. Her chair scraped against the floor, the only sound in the sudden quiet. She collected her tray, walked to the dish return, and departed without a backward glance. Later that day, during a navigation exercise in the thick forest surrounding the camp, Anna was partnered with a Dutch trainee named Lars, a Aki man with a booming voice who habitually interrupted others. The assignment required leading their squad to a checkpoint using only a compass and map. Lars snatched the map from Anna's hands before she could open it. "I'll manage this," he declared, grinning at the others. "Don't want Desk Jockey getting us lost in her notepad." The squad laughed, following Lars as he marched ahead, shouting directions. Anna trailed behind with her compass in hand, scanning the trees. After 30 minutes, Lars halted, his face flushed, the map crumpled in his grip. They were nowhere close to the checkpoint. The squad groaned, blaming Anna for staying quiet. Lars whirled on her, jabbing his finger toward her face. "You're worthless out here, Carter. Return to your office." Anna looked at him, then at the compass. "Turn left 300 meters, she said with a flat voice. Lars scoffed but followed her guidance. Within 10 minutes, they reached the checkpoint exactly where Anna had indicated. The instructor nodded approvingly at her, but Lars simply muttered, "Lucky guess," and stomped away, his pride stinging more than the sweat in his eyes. The navigation exercise didn't halt the ridicule. The following morning during equipment inspection, a Polish trainee named Dominic, stocky with a permanent sneer, decided to create a scene. He seized Anna's backpack from the lineup and dumped its contents onto the ground, socks, a flashlight, a folded map scattering into the dirt. "Let's examine what Desk Jockey carries," he said, kicking the map with his boot. The other trainees gathered around, laughing as Dominic held up her plain water bottle like a prize. "Look at this. No flair, nothing special. Did you shop at the discount store, Carter?" Anna knelt to collect her belongings, her hands steady, but her jaw clenched as Dominic stepped on the map, grinding it into the mud. "Whoops," he said with a smirk. "Looks like you need a new notebook." She didn't reply. She retrieved each item, cleaned the mud off the map, and repacked everything without a word. The instructor observed but said nothing, simply called for the next inspection. Dominic walked away, high-fiving Klaus, leaving Anna alone in the dirt, her silhouette small yet unwavering against the morning sun. That afternoon, the camp moved to a combat simulation, a war game in a mock village at the edge of the training grounds. Anna was assigned to rear command for the blue team. Klaus on the red team laughed when he heard about command. "She's going to get us all eliminated from her desk." The blue team wasn't enthusiastic either. A Spanish trainee, stocky and serious, muttered, "Great, we're stuck with the clerk." Anna took her position in the command tent with a radio headset on and a map spread out. The instructor handed her a clipboard. "Don't mess this up," he said with no confidence in his voice. The simulation began and chaos erupted. The red team moved quickly, trapping blue's forward units in crossfire. The Spanish guy shouted into his radio, demanding reinforcements. The blue team's commander, a Norwegian with a blonde buzz cut, barked orders that weren't effective. Anna marked positions with a pencil, her movements quick but composed. She spoke into the radio with a steady voice. Alpha Squad, withdraw to the eastern alley. Bravo, flank north through the marketplace. Charlie, maintain the fountain. The Norwegian hesitated, then nodded. Execute it, he said. In under 3 minutes, it was finished. Anna's strategy had redirected Blue's forces into the red team's blind spot. Alpha caught Klaus's unit in a pincer movement. Bravo swept through the market while Charlie held their position. The red team was eliminated. The instructor blew his whistle, ending the simulation. The blue team celebrated, but the Norwegian turned to Anna, astonished. "Where did you lay or in that?" he asked. Anna set the clipboard down. "In the wilderness," she said, "without a map." Klaus, covered in sweat and red paint, glared at her from across the field. During the debriefing, the instructor displayed the simulation's data on a screen. Every move Anna made, every radio call, every adjustment was recorded. The screen showed her plan's effectiveness: 98% success rate, 0 friendly casualties. The room grew quiet. The Spanish trainee who'd called her a clerk stared at the floor. The instructor looked at Anna and said, "I've only witnessed that kind of precision once before." He didn't specify where, but his gaze lingered on her wrist where the tattoo remained hidden beneath her sleeve. The victory didn't end the mockery. It made it worse, as if her competence was a personal insult. By the next morning, Desk Jockey had gained a new edge, laced with resentment. The French trainee Pierre cornered her outside the barracks, his wiry frame blocking her path. "Nice performance yesterday," he said, his smile a sneer. "But theoretical skills won't save you in actual combat. How many battle hours do you have? 0. You just pretend at war." A few others chuckled, encouraging him. Pierre picked up a training manual from a nearby table and threw it at her. It struck her shoulder and dropped to the ground. "Go sketch some more diagrams, girl," he said. Anna looked at him with steady eyes and said, "You talk extensively for someone who was eliminated in 10 seconds yesterday." The laughter ceased. Pierre's face reddened, but he had no response. Anna stepped around him, her boots crunching on gravel, and walked away, leaving the manual in the dirt. A few days later, during a night exercise, a team-building drill where squads had to cross a river using ropes and planks, Anna's group turned vicious. A Portuguese trainee, Carla, with a sharp tongue and false smile, took command. She distributed tasks but pointed at Anna and said, "You stay back. We don't need you dropping the planks in the water." The others snickered, following Carla's lead. When Anna stepped forward to help anyway, Carla shoved a plank into her arms hard enough to make her stumble. "Fine, carry it then, Desk Jockey. Don't cry when you fall." The squad laughed as Anna carried the heavy plank alone, her boots sliding in the mud. Halfway across the river, Carla accidentally bumped into her, sending the plank splashing into the water. The squad groaned, blaming Anna. "Excellent work, Secretary," Carla said, rolling her eyes. Anna climbed back to the bank, soaked and shivering, her uniform clinging to her skin. She didn't respond. She picked up another plank with trembling hands from the cold and started again, her eyes focused on the far bank. The camp's brutality continued relentlessly. During a logistics drill where trainees had to pack and transport supplies under time pressure, a Belgian trainee named Vincent, tall with a smug grin, saw an opportunity. Anna was loading crates onto a truck with quick, precise movements. Vincent walked over pretending to help and accidentally dropped a crate at her feet. It split open, spilling bandages and food rations into the dirt. "Oh, sorry, Desk Jockey," he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "I guess you're not suited for heavy lifting." The other trainees laughed, some kicking the spilled supplies further into the mud. Vincent leaned in, his voice low. "Why don't you stick to paperwork? Leave the real work to us." Anna knelt to salvage what she could, her hands covered in grime. She didn't look at Vincent and didn't acknowledge the laughter. She simply packed the unbroken supplies back into the crate with deliberate movements and carried it to the truck. The instructor, watching from a distance, shook his head but didn't intervene. But the next morning, during a survival training session, Anna turned the tables. The task was to construct a shelter and start a fire in under an hour using only what was available in the forest. The trainees were divided into pairs, and Anna was matched with Vincent. He scoffed, rolling his eyes. "Great, I'm stuck with the office worker." He spent most of the time complaining, tossing sticks into a pile while Anna worked quietly, weaving branches into a framework. Anna took it from his hands without a word, struck it once, and had flames going in seconds. The shelter she'd built withstood the wind while Vincent's pile of sticks collapsed. The instructor walked by, inspecting each team's work. He stopped at Anna's shelter, tested its frame, and nodded. "This will last a week," he said. He glanced at Vincent, then at Anna. "You taught yourself this." Anna shrugged. "I've had experience." The instructor's eyes flicked to her wrist, but he didn't say more. Vincent's face burned, but he remained quiet. The camp's schedule was exhausting. Drills at dawn, strategy sessions all day, physical training until dusk. Anna kept to herself, always in the back, always quiet. She ran the obstacle course faster than most, her movements precise, as if she'd done it 1,000 times. She disassembled her rifle in under a minute, her fingers steady. The instructors noticed, but the trainees didn't care. They'd mock her in passing, throwing out lines like, "Don't trip over your pencil, Carter," or, "You going to strategize your way out of a real fight?" She never answered. She'd keep moving, tying her boots, adjusting her gear, her face unreadable. One evening during downtime, she was cleaning her boots when a trainee dropped a crumpled paper ball at her feet. It was a caricature drawn in markers showing her as a crying girl with a pencil and a broken sword. The group nearby burst out laughing, pointing and jeering. Anna picked it up, looked at it for a second, then folded it neatly and tucked it into her pocket. She went back to cleaning her boots, her hands steady but her jaw was tight, the only sign of the weight she carried. During a live fire exercise the following week, Anna was assigned to a support role, spotting for a team of shooters. The team's leader, a Turkish trainee named Amir, all swagger and loud bravado, made a point of humiliating her. "Spotting? Really?" he said loud enough for everyone to hear. "What's next, Carter? You going to polish our rifles?" He handed her a pair of binoculars and shoved her toward the observation post. "Don't mess this up, paper girl. Real soldiers are counting on you." The team laughed, following Amir to the firing line. Anna took her position with binoculars raised, calling out targets with calm precision. Every shot hit its mark thanks to her calls. When the exercise ended, the instructor praised the team's accuracy but didn't mention Anna. Amir took the credit, slapping his teammates' backs. Anna lowered her binoculars with a blank face and walked back to the barracks alone, the wind carrying the sound of their celebration behind her. But during the next strategy session, something shifted. The instructor asked for volunteers to present a defensive plan for a hypothetical urban siege. Nobody raised their hand except Anna. She walked to the front with her notebook in hand and laid out a plan. Choke points, resource allocation, civilian evacuation routes. It was airtight, every detail accounted for. The room was silent as she spoke, her voice steady, her eyes on the map. When she finished, the instructor nodded slowly. "That's textbook," he said. "Better than textbook." He turned to the class. "Anyone want to critique it?" Nobody spoke. Then from the back, a quiet voice, another instructor who'd been observing silently, said, "I saw that exact strategy work once, in a place nobody talks about." He glanced at Anna's wrist, then looked away. The trainees shifted in their seats, uneasy, but nobody said a word. The camp's cruelty peaked during a physical training session a few days later. A Greek trainee named Sophia, lean and fiercely competitive, organized a relay race and made sure Anna was on her team. "Let's see if Desk Jockey can keep up," Sophia said, her smile sharp. The race was brutal. Sprinting, crawling under barbed wire, carrying sandbags. Sophia set a punishing pace, shouting at Anna to move faster even when she was ahead. At the sandbag carry, Sophia tripped and knocked Anna's bag into the dirt, forcing her to start over. The team lost, and Sophia blamed Anna in front of everyone. "You're dead weight, Carter," she said, spitting on the ground. "Go back to your desk." Anna picked up the sandbag, her hands caked with dirt, and carried it to the finish line anyway, long after the race was over. The other teams watched, some laughing, some looking away. Sophia high-fived her friends, but her eyes darted to Anna like she was waiting for a crack that never came. The next big test was a sniper challenge in a simulated blizzard. The camp's training field was rigged with fans and fake snow, the wind gusting hard. The task: hit 5 moving targets at 700 meters in under 12 seconds. Klaus hit 3, cursing as he missed the last 2. Pierre managed 4, his hands shaking. When Anna's name was called, the group groaned. "She's going to choke," Pierre said. Anna stepped to the firing line with her rifle slung over her shoulder. She adjusted her stance with smooth movements. The wind howled, kicking up snow. She raised the rifle with slow breathing and fired. 5 shots, 5 hits. The targets dropped, each one dead center. The timer read 11.4 seconds. The instructor stared at the screen with his mouth half open. A British guy whispered, "That's the Black Ridge perfect score. Thought they scrapped that test in 2019. Anna lowered her rifle and said, "I'm accustomed to the wind," then walked back to her spal. During a maintenance drill the following day, Anna was tasked with inspecting a row of rifles for defects. She worked methodically, her hands moving over each weapon with care. A group of trainees led by a Romanian named Dragos, short but muscular with a loud laugh, saw her and decided to have fun. Dragos grabbed one of the rifles she'd already checked and loosened a screw in the trigger guard just enough to make it rattle. "Hey, desk jockey, you missed something," he said, tossing the rifle back onto the table. The group laughed as Anna picked it up, her fingers finding the loose screw in seconds. She tightened it without a word, but Dragos wasn't done. He leaned over, his breath hot on her neck, and said, "You're not fooling anyone, Carter. You're just playing soldier until they kick you out." The others jeered, one mimicking her movements with exaggerated slowness. Anna set the rifle down, her eyes meeting Dragos's for a split second. "Check your own gear," she said, her voice low. "You might need it." She turned back to her work, but the air felt heavier, the laughter a little forced. That afternoon, during a field exercise, Dragos's rifle jammed during a critical moment, leaving his squad exposed. The instructor called a halt, inspecting the weapon. The same screw Dragos had tampered with was missing entirely. Anna had removed it after his stunt, knowing it would fail under pressure. The instructor chewed Dragos out in front of everyone, his face red with anger. "You call yourself a soldier?" he barked. Dragos shot Anna a look, but she was already moving to the next task with a blank face. The squad whispered among themselves, some glancing at her with new respect, others with unease. The instructor handed Dragos a replacement rifle and said, "Learn from this, or you're out." Anna didn't look back, but her hands moved a little faster, her focus sharper, like she had shed a weight she'd been carrying. The whispers about Black Ridge started then, floating through the camp like smoke. The trainees didn't know much, just that it was a mission that didn't exist, a bloodbath with no survivors, or so they thought. But the mockery didn't stop. It got meaner, like her skill was a threat. During a hand-to-hand combat drill, an Italian trainee named Marco grabbed her wrist. He was broad-shouldered with a dragon tattoo snaking up his arm. "What's this?" he said, holding her wrist up. "A broken sword. Cringe. You cosplaying some video game? The group laughed, circling closer. I've got a dragon, Marco said, flexing. Doesn't make me a killer. Anna pulled her wrist back, sharp but controlled. She stepped into the sparring stance with her eyes locked on his. Marco swung a sloppy punch. She dodged. She countered with a jab to his chest, knocking the wind out of him. He stumbled, gasping, and the laughter died. Next, Anna said, her voice flat. One evening in the armory, Anna was checking her rifle's scope. The room was quiet except for the hum of fluorescent lights. Klaus walked in with the group, his eyes narrowing when he saw her. He picked up a cleaning rag and threw it at her, hitting her in the face. "Clean my rifle while you're at it, desk jockey," he said, his voice dripping with contempt. The others laughed, one mimicking a maid's curtsy. Anna caught the rag before it fell, folded it neatly, and set it on the table. She looked at Klaus with steady eyes and said, "I don't clean up other people's messes." She went back to her scope, her knuckles white. Klaus opened his mouth, then closed it, his face darkening. The group left, but not before one knocked over a stack of ammo boxes near her, leaving them scattered. Anna waited until they were gone, then knelt to pick them up, her movements slow, like she was carrying more than just tea boxes. The next day, during a tactical review, a retired general visited the camp, a man with a limp and a chest full of medals. He was there to observe, but he ended up watching Anna. She was presenting a counter-ambush plan, her voice calm, her markers moving across the board with precision. The general interrupted, pointing at her wrist. "That tattoo," he said, his voice rough. "I've seen it before. Only one unit used that mark." The room froze. He didn't say Black Ridge, but he didn't have to. The trainees looked at each other, then at Anna, who didn't flinch. She finished her presentation, sat down, and folded her hands. The general leaned over to the instructor and whispered something. The instructor's face changed, and he dismissed the class early. As Anna left, the general watched her go, his hand touching an old scar on his neck, his eyes distant like he was seeing something no one else could. Major Christopher Holt walked through the camp that afternoon, his boots crunching on the gravel. He was a tall man in his late 40s with gray at his temples. He'd been a CIA strategic advisor, a man who dealt in secrets. Passing the training field, he glanced at Anna, who was cleaning her rifle. His eyes caught her wrist, the broken sword, the 7 etched lines. He stopped, his breath catching. "Manual kill count," he muttered. "Go-tops use that system." He stepped closer, his voice low. "Warrior, number 42 from Black Ridge 0. Anna looked up, her hands still on the rifle. She didn't nod, didn't speak. She held his gaze, and something passed between them. Recognition, maybe, or something heavier. Holt stepped back and walked away, his shoulders a little stiffer, like he'd just carried something new. The camp's atmosphere shifted, but not in Anna's favor. The trainees sensed something was off, and their mockery turned desperate, like they needed to prove she was nothing. During a strategy session, a training officer, a barrel-chested man with a scowl, called her out. "Carter," he barked. "You refuse to disclose your background or report your chain of command. What are you hiding?" Anna stood with her hands at her sides. "Nothing you need to know, sir." The officer's face darkened. "I won't tolerate insubordination," he shouted. "Leave this camp by 1800 hours or face disciplinary action." The room buzzed with sneers. Pierre whispered to Klaus, "Scared her cosplay is going to get exposed." Anna sat back down, her notebook opened, her pen in her hand, her eyes steady despite the weight of the room. The officer's threat hung over the camp all day. Trainees whispered about it during drills, during meals, during downtime. "She's done," they said. "Desk jockey's out." Anna didn't pack her bags. She didn't argue. She kept going, running the course, cleaning her gear, sitting at the back of every room. At one point, she paused outside the barracks, her eyes catching on a patch of dirt where a group had scrawled, "Paper soldier with a stick." She stared at it, her jaw tight, then stepped over it and kept walking. That evening, during a communications drill, a Finnish trainee named Hannah, with a cold smile and a reputation for cutting remarks, took it further. Anna was testing a radio set, her headset on, when Hannah walked over and yanked the cord out, sending static screeching through the speakers. "Oops," Hannah said, smirking. "Didn't see you there, desk jockey. You're so good at blending into the background." The group laughed, some mimicking the static sound. Anna reconnected the cord, adjusted the frequency, and said, "Next time, look where you're going." Her voice was calm, but her hand lingered on the radio, her fingers tight. The next morning, during a signals exercise, Hannah's radio failed during a critical relay, cutting her squad off from command. The instructor traced the issue to a tampered frequency setting. Someone had dialed it off by a single notch. Hannah's face went pale as the instructor tore into her, her squad glaring at her for the mistake. Anna, standing nearby, tested her own radio, her signal clear and strong. The instructor glanced at her, then at Hannah, and said, "Attention to details saves lives. Learn it." Hannah didn't look at Anna, but her hands shook as she reset her radio. The squad whispered, some casting sidelong glances at Anna, who was already moving to the next task, her headset still on, her focus unbroken. That afternoon, a helicopter landed in the central courtyard, kicking up dust. Special forces stepped out, flanking the Minister of Defense, a man in a crisp suit. The camp froze. The minister strode toward Holt, handing him a sealed dossier. Holt opened it, his eyes scanning the pages. His hands tightened on the file. The minister spoke, his voice carrying. "Special Advisor Sergeant Anna Carter, sole survivor of a classified mission terminated in 2019. Effective immediately, she will train your entire unit." The camp went silent. Anna stepped forward, her uniform plain, her hair loose. She adjusted her sleeve, covering the tattoo, and looked at the minister. He nodded once. She turned to the trainees, her eyes sweeping over Klaus, Pierre, Marco, all of them. "Lesson 1, she said, her voice quiet. "Never laugh at someone with a broken sword. It means they kept killing even after the blade snapped." A faint smile touched her lips. Not smug, just knowing. The fallout was swift. Klaus was called into the command office that evening. By morning, he was gone, his bunk empty, his name scrubbed. Word spread he'd been reassigned to a desk job in Berlin, his career stalled. Pierre's mocking caught up with him, too. A video of him tossing the manual at Anna leaked online. The French military pulled him from the program, his social media locked down. Marco tried to apologize to Anna, stammering through an excuse. She listened with a blank face, then walked away. His unit dropped him, and he ate alone for the rest of the camp. Sophia lost her sponsorship with a military gear brand after her relay stunt was reported. Carla's river incident earned her a formal reprimand, her record stained. Dominic's gear dumping was caught on camera, and he was sent back to Poland, his file marked unfit for leadership. Vincent's crate-dropping stunt led to a week of latrine duty, his reputation in tatters. Dragos was quietly transferred after his rifle jam, his squad refusing to work with him. Hannah's radio failure cost her a leadership role, her confidence shaken. Anna didn't gloat. She started leading training sessions, her voice calm, her instructions precise. The trainees listened now, their notebooks open. She'd walk through the room, pointing out flaws in their plans, adjusting their stances, her presence undeniable. One day during a break, she sat outside with a cup of coffee. A new trainee sat next to her. "Is it true?" he asked. Black Ridge 0. Anna took a sip, her eyes on the horizon. "Doesn't matter," she said. What matters is you don't break when the sword does. Holt watched from a distance, his hands in his pockets. He never brought up the tattoo again, but he'd nod when she passed, a sign of respect. The camp ended a month later. Anna left on a quiet morning, her bag slung over her shoulder, her boots crunching on the gravel. Nobody mocked her now. They just watched her go, some with awe, some with shame. She didn't look back, but she'd stood her ground with quiet, unshakable dignity. And in the end, that was enough. Not then, not now. Appreciate me if you like this content by follow and like me. Thanks for watching.